An exciting day of baseball had a dark cloud over it after Matthew Liberatore had to leave his start early. We've got the latest on his health coming up on today's episode of Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on X at JD Sports Radio. The podcast also available on X at LO_Cardinals. We're on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Hit that notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. Also available on TikTok and Instagram at Locked on Cardinals. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So after some scary weather went through the St. Louis area on Wednesday, the Cardinals and the Royals forced to do a doubleheader on Thursday. I think I saw somewhere this is like the most doubleheaders the Cardinals have ever had through this point of the season, like in the history of the franchise. Like, been some weather issues around the country. The Cardinals are not the only ones that are going through this with the doubleheaders and stuff. But needless to say, another one had to take place at Busch Stadium, and it was a nutty day at the ballpark, man. Exciting stuff. You wish the Cardinals were able to sweep the doubleheader, but they get that comeback and walk-off win in Game 1, and then more offense in Game 2, but the Royals would finish that one on top by a score of 7-5. But the biggest story of the day was the health of one Matthew Liberatore, the young Cardinals left-hander who he's been so good for them so far this year. Pulled early from Game 2 after just 71 pitches. Wasn't pitching well in the first place and ended up taking the loss after allowing 7 runs on 8 hits, 2 home runs, a walk. Only had 2 strikeouts through 4 innings. From a performance standpoint, that alone was reason to pull him out of the game. Not something you want to do during a doubleheader because you're trying to get as many innings out of your starters as you possibly can. But he wasn't pitching well. And after a walk to start the 5th inning, out came Ollie and Dusty Blake and the training staff to have a little chat with Libby, who didn't seem overly concerned with what was going on. You know, they came out. It's not like they ran out there like something horrible had just happened. You know, nothing like what was going on with the Atlanta Braves recently with Shawver, where he was like, I felt a pop. It wasn't anything like that. He wasn't pointing at his arm. He wasn't pointing at his shoulder. He didn't look uncomfortable really out there. It was a very civil and relaxed conversation, but ultimately they decided, let's not screw around a little bit. Let's go ahead and pull him from the game, and they bring in John King instead. Just reading the body language through what was going on the mound, you could tell Libby wasn't exactly thrilled about having to leave the game. He looked pissed, really, but he did not look like something bad had happened to him injury-wise that he was upset about. I think he was more upset about how he was pitching, it seems. So I'll be honest, I wasn't overly concerned. You never like to see a pitcher being pulled from the game. But again, wasn't pitching well. Velocity was down. That was real. His fastball was coming in at around 89 when he normally sits 94, 95. So obviously, you know, that's something that alarms people when you see that. Reason to be concerned for sure. But after he was removed, he was just in the dugout, you know, having a conversation with the medical staff. Ollie was seen sitting there just kind of chatting with them. Nothing aggressive. It wasn't like he was, you know, whisked away back into the training room or to get an MRI or anything like that. So when the diagnosis of fatigue was reported, that didn't surprise me at all whatsoever. You know, maybe just a little worn down, maybe just a little tired. It happens. You know, sometimes you just don't have the zip and it's just not there. Both Ollie and Libby spoke with the media after this game, and they really had nothing but positive things to say about any injury concerns. They both mentioned that Libby was just kind of out of sync was really the one phrase that stood out to me. I do have some audio of Libby talking with the media in the clubhouse afterwards. So let's check this out real quick. Here we go.
Yeah, just out of sync, working around everything. Different body parts going in different directions and not towards the plate.
Was that from the start or did it develop?
Actually felt pretty good in the first inning. Felt like stuff was lively, pretty synced up, and then I got out of sync, and I just failed to make the adjustment the rest of the outing.
Is that something you've experienced before in a start?
Probably not to that extent, but I mean, yeah, over the course of the season, you're going to have times where you feel synced up and kind of lose the feel for it and find it again. Just didn't find it again tonight.
Was your concern more of just being out of sync more than the general fatigue?
Yeah, I wasn't concerned about pain or fatigue or anything. I was going to keep pitching until they ripped the ball out of my hands, which is unfortunately what ended up happening. But just kept trying to figure out how to make the adjustment and ran out of time.
So there you go. Obviously, Libby pretty calm about things, and it's just like, look, I'm not concerned about injuries or anything like that. There wasn't any pain or anything. So that's great news, right? You love to hear that. This is manager Ali Marmol on the level of concern of things and the situation that had transpired with Libby in this game.
At the moment, not high. In talking to him, he said he felt really good. Even when we took him out, he said he felt good, just out of sync with his mechanics. And wish he had a better answer, but it just wasn't coming out. But no injury. No pain. Said he actually felt really good going into that game and just wasn't synced up. So ran some tests on him during that game once he came out, and everything came back looking pretty good. So we'll continue to take a look at it going into tomorrow. But at the moment, nothing that makes you kind of think it's something serious.
So there you go. That's the good news. I don't remember if the velo had dropped much in the game against Texas. I'm sure alarms would have went off had it been that way. They would have checked on him in that game too. It's not like they take chances with stuff like that. But he had that really rough outing in Texas, his first bad one since that start in Pittsburgh at the beginning of the season. 5 runs, 4 earned on 7 hits, 1 home run in 5 innings. Thursday night, 7 runs, 8 hits, 2 home runs in just 4 innings. Good news is it doesn't appear to be anything wrong with him health-wise. Just wasn't in a good spot. Was having issues with his mechanics, which was the cause of most of the problems, according to them. So, you heard recently Jojo Romero was having some issues with velocity. And if you remember, the story was he rediscovered it by going and hitting golf balls and realized he wasn't using his hips properly. And since he figured that out, he kind of unlocked the velo again. Has got that giddy up back in the old number 1. So hopefully they can get everything ironed out with Libby sooner rather than later. But the pitching staff in general has been taking a beating recently. Libby has obviously been a big part of that, but it's not just him. So we're going to discuss the recent struggles with this pitching staff coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Ever check your bank account and wonder where exactly did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, very easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And it's not just a budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center. It allows you to track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending, and do it all in one place. As convenient as it is to get things delivered these days, trust me, I know. The wife and I get things delivered all the time. Got my Ivan Herrera pants in the mail today, actually. I'll have to show those to you. But, you spend money, you get delivery charges, convenience charges, and it starts to add up. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch Money to check those finances, track the spending that you're doing that you don't realize how much you're spending, and even plan long-term goals. And if you're married, it makes managing money with your spouse or partner even that much smoother. You can track shared and personal accounts. You can set goals together and do it without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thanks again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well as on X anytime you want. The feedback is always welcome and encouraged. A lot of people concerned with what they're seeing out of the pitching staff over the last 6 games, and I don't blame you. The Cardinals pitching staff, which had been surprisingly steady for most of the year, has hit a bit of a rut right now, and it's got some people concerned. They gave up 19 runs in 2 games, essentially in Texas. You would say 19 in the 3 games, but Sonny was brilliant. Bullpen was really good in that one too. But, Sonny Gray was insanely good on Saturday in Texas. Rangers were supposedly a team that was not hitting well, remember? And then they hit pretty darn well in 2 out of 3 games against the Cardinals. Then Kansas City comes to Busch Stadium, another team under this umbrella as a team that is not hitting well. And then they rip off 22 runs in 3 games. Is it a case of these teams just being due for some success finally? Or is it the Cardinals pitching staff regressing and starting to come back down to earth a little bit after some early season success? My answer on that is, and you're not going to like this, but I think it's a little bit of both, really. We know the Cardinals pitching staff wasn't exactly highly regarded coming into the season, right? People like and respect Sonny Gray, and he's been doing normal Sonny Gray things for this Cardinals staff. He's first in innings pitched on the staff. He's first in strikeouts, first in ERA among the starters. He's first in wins. He's our number one. He's our guy. After that, you weren't really sure what you had. Could Eric Fetty replicate the type of season he had last year, mostly in Chicago? Has shown flashes of that, has had a couple of games where he's been dominant. But the walks continue to be his biggest enemy in 2025 so far. He's never been a big strikeout guy. So the lack of swing and miss and lack of command at times has led to a few ugly games. But then you see some good ones where you're like, well, why can't he do this all the time? But hey, that's baseball, right? Andre Palante in a similar position, like Fetty, where there are some games that he looks really good. And you're like, okay, all right, he's found something here. But more times than not, he is also struggling with command, with his walks. And usually it's like one bad pitch or just one bad inning that throws the whole game out of whack. And you go look at the end box score and you're like, man, that isn't as good as I thought he was pitching. And, like this recent game, he had retired 13 in a row. Things were moving along nicely for Andre. And then, boom, it just implodes. Miles Mikolas has certainly pitched much better than anticipated after the Boston Massacre. Miles has been quite effective. He's not pitching deep into games. The old joke that everybody, he's really eating innings, isn't he? Not really. He's good for 5, maybe 6 here and there. Hasn't pitched past the 6th in any of his 12 starts this year, but he does have 4 quality starts. The ERA is under 4 at the moment. In game 1 of this series, he gave up game 1 of the doubleheader, gave up one of the meatiest batting practice pitches I have seen. Just 92 right down the middle to Jonathan frickin' India, and he deposits it into the seats. So you're like, great, here we go. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you look at the score and you're like, 3 runs, 8 hits, which is very Miles Mikolas. He's going to give up hits. He's a very hittable pitcher. But if he keeps it in the yard and doesn't allow a lot of extra base hits, he usually can do all right for you. So 3 runs, 8 hits over 6 innings. He gives you a quality start in game 1 on Wednesday or Thursday in the doubleheader. He just kept the boys in it. And eventually they rewarded him by coming back and getting the win. And then you've got the emergence of Matthew Liberatore. It was something nobody could really predict because we weren't sure what he could do as a starter. And we knew he was pretty good in the bullpen, and they decided, let's go starter. And they were right. They were. And until the last 2 games, you're talking about Matthew Liberatore pushing for an all-star selection. That's how good he had been. Hopefully this fatigue, the mechanics, hopefully those are the culprits for the subpar starts in the past 2 outings, and those can be rectified soon. But when you look at all the runs they've given up in the last 2 series, 12 of the 41 runs that the staff gave up, it's off Matthew Liberatore, who's having mechanical issues. So he's working through something. All right. That's a big chunk. Okay. I mean, we're talking about 25% of the runs there. Andre Palante responsible for 7 of them from the brutal loss on Tuesday night. So there's 19 of the runs. We're talking about almost half of them just from those 2. Steven Matz gave up 5 in his last 2 appearances, which has not been the norm for him this year. There's 24. What I'm getting at here is that these guys aren't robots. And there are going to be times that they do give up runs. Everybody does. So I'm not freaking out that like, oh gosh, they suck now. They're not good. You know, there are slumps in baseball offensively and pitching wise. It happens. Nobody is immune to it. It's going to happen. It is going to happen. And the Cardinals, despite going through a few issues with the pitching staff, they were still able to put up a fight in every single game of this series against the Kansas City Royals, a team that was a playoff team last year. We're not talking about some bottom feeder team. The Kansas City Royals are a good team. They have capable hitters who some have not quite lived up to what people thought they were going to do this year, but they're not a pushover lineup by any means. You know, the power of Jonathan India over the Cardinals was quite strong in this series. Again, he had 6 hits and 5 runs scored. The guy owns the Cardinals. It's as frustrating as any guy in the league to face. I don't get it. I don't know how a dude hits like 240 against the rest of the league for a career, but then against the Cardinals, he's a 320 hitter. I don't get it. I have no idea what they're doing. And no matter what uniform he's in, when he was with the Reds, he'd be in a huge slump. And then he would just play us and 7 hits in a series or something. It was just ridiculous. And he did it again here with the Royals. Bobby Witt Jr. is a stud. You know that. Salvador Perez, obviously a little older now at age 35, but it's still a damn good, respectable hitter. Michael Garcia becoming a star right before your eyes, hitting 311 now. He's got an OPS of 852. Then he passed Quintino, hitting lasers around the ball field. Jack Caglione is got the look of a future superstar. Kyle Isbell is one of those bit pieces, quick, pesky player, great defensively in center field. The Freddie Freeman, or for me, the Freddie Fermin and the Nick Lofton home runs were the ones that stood out to me like, oh, that's gross. That's ugly. You don't want to be giving up long balls to those guys. You're not happy about that. But I think this Royals lineup is pretty solid. They're not the Yankees or the Phillies or the Dodgers, who the Cardinals are going to be playing here soon. But they are very similar to what the Cardinals can do. You know, just a solid group that plays well together. You know, kind of like the Tigers. You know, they just play well together. And the Royals displayed some really good defense in this series. The biggest asset has been their pitching staff so far this year. They have a lot of good arms in that clubhouse. Yet the Cardinals, they were right there. They were right there with them in every single game. We're going to point out some of the offensive highlights and give you some trends that we're looking at. That'll come your way next here on Locked On Cardinals. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product information to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you're going to find exactly what you want. It's going to get delivered to you fast, coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, got a question, a concern, whatever it may be, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. Get this, you're going to be able to talk to a real person. How many other places give you that? It doesn't happen very often. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, they've got a free Trade Master program, which offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every single order. I don't know what you're waiting for. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. The series against the Rangers was tough on two fronts, right? The pitching was poor in 2 of the 3 outings, and then in the offense, just non-existent for the whole weekend. All 3 games, they scored 4 runs total. Somehow came away with a win doing that. Just not the norm for this Cardinals offense in 2025. So again, I wasn't all that concerned. You know, you look at the bigger body of work and you see what they've been able to accomplish. I trust that before I trust just a 3-game sample. Okay. And I know people go crazy when they see the Cardinals struggle for a couple of games in a row. It's just going to happen. You got to understand this, that there are going to be peaks and valleys during a baseball season. This is not football. It's not one game a week. And if they suck for that game, it screws you over. There's just going to be the ups and downs. It's just going to happen. So you cannot, I can't stress this anymore. You cannot lose your mind over, you can't even if it's a bad week, you've got to understand that they will probably bounce right back in the next week. Okay. It's got to be a really long 2-week span for it to become like a real trend in Major League Baseball. I know it's difficult for people because you want instantaneous results and everything in your life, but that's not how this works. It just isn't. So again, wasn't all that concerned about what I saw in Texas. Bad weekend. Can't go crazy about one series over 162 games. You'll stress yourself out too much. You get a bunch of grays in your hair and your beard, and you won't like it. And don't forget the Rangers. They're not like some crappy team. Like, they threw some decent talent in those games. You lost to 2-time Cy Young Award winner Jacob deGrom. All right, he's pretty good. You lost to former number 2 overall pick Jack Leiter. He's pretty good. There's a reason why he was the number 2 overall pick just a couple of years ago. All right, these aren't scrubs. They're not. Now, Patrick Corbin is getting a resurgence with the Rangers this year and has pitched so much better. But you were able to beat him. You only scored 2 runs, but you won that game. But yeah, when I'm facing Cy Young Award winners and top prospect, like, it's going to happen. And then you got the Royals coming to town. And I could understand why people were like, oh gosh, here we go. Because the Royals were coming to town and they have an excellent staff. You were thinking that runs would be at a premium in this series. And the Cardinals looked fine offensively outside of what they did against Noah Cameron, but they scored 18 runs in 3 games against them. The offense did enough to win all 3 games. You know, I'd argue like losing that first game, that should have been a W. They should have won this series. 7-2 lead in game 1, it disappears. You win game 2 when the offense got to the Kansas City bullpen. Noah Cameron, dude, I don't know what it is about him, but the Cardinals cannot hit him. And everybody was like, lefties, they have problems hitting lefties and stuff. It is different against this dude. He is just something else. Like, what a start to his career. He's been outstanding against everybody. It's not just the Cardinals. He's been like this against everybody. But then the Kansas City bullpen comes in and the Cardinals find a groove and end up getting the win. And then in game 3, you come from behind to tie things up after being down quite a few. Tied up at 5. But then you lose 7-5. Couldn't get enough offense later on in the game. Again, Kansas City's bullpen's usually pretty good. The offense for the Cardinals, it's still very good. You got some guys who have been slumping recently that were able to make some impacts, like Ivan Herrera. Had been mired in a 5-for-30 slump over his last 10 games. No home runs. Gets 4 hits in the series, including the 2-run blast in game 2 to give the Cardinals the lead for a brief moment before Helsley blew the save in the 9th inning. It's a good thing they pulled that one out because I was not happy with seeing Ryan Helsley again. Traffic all over the base paths. I don't think it needs to be said that getting Herrera going again is obviously going to help this offense tremendously. Is a huge reason why they've got as many wins as they have this year, despite missing a month. Nolan Arenado's batting average, I know it's not good. Continues to dip. He's down to 228 on the season, but he's coming up with some pretty big hits at certain times. You know, he's got a decent amount of RBIs, 4 hits in the series, including the big 2-run shot in game 3 that tied things up at 5. He's not the Nolan of old, so you got to quit looking at him as being that guy, okay? Willson Contreras, 5 hits in the series, including 3 doubles, 5 ribbies. Hit the game-winning RBI single in extra innings in game 2 to give the Cardinals that walk-off win in his 1,000th career MLB game. Congratulations, Willson. Now tied for 4th in RBIs for NL first baseman and is just 4 behind Freddie Freeman and Nathaniel Lowe, who are tied for 2nd. They've got 40 on the season, so he's not that far off the pace. Nobody's catching Pete Alonso. Alonso's got 55 RBIs already, having a hell of a season for the Mets, and I'm enjoying it in fantasy. It's kind of nice. The one guy I'm concerned about at the moment, if there's one guy in the lineup, because I'm not ever expecting a whole lot of Pedro Pajes Like, that's not who he is. He's not an offensive guy. It was nice when he was getting a lot of hits early on, coming back down to what he really kind of is. But Victor Scott, our guy is ice cold at the moment. 2 for his last 32 with just 2 walks. Slumps are going to happen. They pointed out in the telecast that a lot of guys are throwing breaking stuff in on him, and that's something he's going to have to adjust to. But one of the great things about this offense when it was really rolling was that Victor was essentially that second leadoff guy, somebody who was getting on base, stealing bases, and, really putting some pressure on the pitcher and the defense at the bottom of the order. And over the last 11 games, he's just had a really tough time getting on base. I would assume he's going to turn it around eventually. It happens. He does have 3 stolen bases in that time. So when he is getting on base, he's still running, which is great. 4th in the NL in steals with 17, 5 behind MLB leader O'Neal Cruz from Pittsburgh. So getting him rolling again would also help, lengthen this lineup just a bit and get him on base in front of the top of the order with, Newt and Wynn and Donovan. Donovan's cooled off a little bit, but, again, peaks and valleys. Alec Burleson has been fantastic, 4 for 8 in the series with the big blast on Tuesday night in Game 1. He's batting .290 now on the season. Nolan Gorman also went yard on Tuesday, but the unfortunate part is they can't, or they won't at least, start him against any left-handed pitchers. The numbers are just proving that he's not going to hit that guy very well. So, and the Royals threw 2 lefties in the doubleheader. So he has that home run, and then he gets 1 at bat in the next 2 games with those lefties on the mound. Jordan Walker, a little update on him right now. Got a shot in his wrist to help with the inflammation. He is eligible to come off the IL on Sunday, but there's been discussion that, perhaps they might send him down, get him a rehab stint to get his timing back before he rejoins the club. We'll wait and see what the Cardinals do in that situation, but hopefully he's feeling better. And, it sucks too, because it was really bad timing for Jordan, who was starting to swing the bat a whole lot better right when this issue popped up, which is a shame. So you hope he can find that swing again. Dodgers in town this weekend. Don't need to tell you how difficult this one is going to be. They are arguably the best team in baseball when healthy. The lineup, just MVPs at the top: Shohei, Betts, Freddie Freeman. Mookie's back from the toe, broke his toe at home or something. Will Smith, Max Muncy's been on an absolute heater. Teoscar Hernandez is the guy that doesn't get talked about a lot, but just constantly drives people in. Of course, our old friend Tommy Edman. Eddie Pajes is another guy, second-year player who has just been awesome in drive and run. So if you do pitch around guys at the top of the order, there he is, and he's driving dudes in. The guys can rake. It's a really, really good offense. Pitching has been the one weakness for them because they got so many guys hurt. Their rotation is in shambles because of the injuries. Their bullpen is all up in the air. Like, they've had to go. They had Ryan Ludus, the former Cardinal, who ended up over in LA, had to pitch the other night. That's where they are. Ryan Ludus is pitching for the Dodgers, like in meaningful games against the Mets. They traded for Alexis Diaz from the Reds, who was just getting shelled. They're hurting for stuff in the bullpen. Tanner Scott literally has to pitch every day. I think I looked at it, was 62 games, and he's already thrown in 30 of them. They're going to wear that dude out, but he's one of the few arms they can trust out there. Like, it's been a grind, yet they're so good that they just keep winning. So probables, lefty Justin Robleski, honestly, never heard of the dude. Never heard of him until I looked up the probables. He gets the start on Friday, so tonight, depending on when you're watching this. Sonny Gray will be throwing for the Cardinals, so you like your matchup there. You think that would favor the Cardinals. Saturday is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Been one of the top pitchers in baseball this year against Eric Fetty. So that's not going to be an easy W. And then on Sunday, it's TBD for everybody, although speculation is that the Cardinals could start Michael McGreevy for that one. I haven't seen a confirmation yet on whether or not that is going to be taking place, but that has been the rumor pretty much since the beginning of the week. Let's do a quick run through, see if there's anything that has just been announced before we move on here. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's been confirmed. So That's just the rumors right now. So there you go. Entertaining weekend at Busch Stadium. Hopefully the Cardinals can get 2 out of 3. It won't be easy. The Dodgers are fantastic. But hopefully the offense can continue to be who they've been most of the year. Pitchers, keep the ball in the yard. Good luck. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio, TikTok, Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Like, subscribe on YouTube. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.